Hey guys, it's Joe B. I'm here with the Mach 1 pieces. Still working on prepping for paint, so I'm going over priming. What I'm working on is the rocker panel moldings. For 1970, it's the only year that they did these particular ones. I think 68 they had some small ones, but for 70 they had a special size. There are 8. As you can see from the image here, I'm trying to zoom out. As you can see from the image here, there are 2 very long ones here. These go below the door, and then they have the shorter ones here. 1, 2. These go on the door. Here, these guys. These go on the rear quarter near the wheel at the top, which these will go on top of these to make the whole piece. And then these 2 go on the front fender by the front wheel in front of the door. So prepping them, these are, whenever you find them, they're usually pretty beat up and painted several times. These were painted with some kind of black primer and then with some silver over. In order to prep it, I had to sand it, so I used 180 on a hand soft block. I just used old 180 discs that I hadn't really completed, and I just went down the tracks with some pretty good strength. Now you'll see there are some spots here. It's not really how it looks at this point, it's how it feels. So if you feather it out and it feels smooth, you're going to be good, because these are just going to be full of dents and scratches. As you can see up close, I've got a really big dent here. Now you can fill that with filler, but I would not recommend trying to weld it, because of course these are aluminum. All of these pieces are aluminum, and you can't use a regular MIG. You have to use like a blowtorch and the AlumiWeld rods. And even those can be tricky, because you have to soften your substrate enough. I think it is about 700 degrees is where it's got to go. You got to soften this enough, and then soften the rod enough so that they mate up without warping the piece. Very difficult. In one case, I had actually burned through when I was working on something, trying to find the piece. I think it was up here where I was working on one and I burned through. So in these cases, I just filled it with filler, which is the best I could do to make those pieces repaired. The other tricky part is on the backs. You'll find that sometimes they're missing the pins. Back here, these pins could be snapped or broken off or just not operational anymore. So in that case, you really do have to figure out an alternative method. And in this case, I did use the AlumiWeld rods. I melted the whole piece itself enough, I softened it enough so that I could get a little dot of AlumiWeld in there, and then I placed that stainless steel screw in it. And I'll use those to hold it in place as with the pins. But it's risky, very risky to do that job. So those are all aluminum pieces. A little FYI, something else that's aluminum is these. The front fender end caps. Don't try to weld these, or you'll have a mistake. Over here I had a crack that I tried to weld it, and it actually worked out pretty well. But working with the aluminum and the rods is a very difficult situation. I left it this way in the back for strength, since it's not going to touch anything or be seen. But there are parts on this car that were aluminum, which was probably for weight reduction. Anyway, this is Joe B doing the sanding. I did use the DA on this part, the DA with a 180 grit in this area, but all of this had to be by hand. I'm just tracking it down. And that's what I'm up to today, is trying to get these things cleaned up. As you can see, the difference between the unrestored piece and the restored piece. So this piece took about an hour to do, and I'll be here for another, it's like 3 hours. All right, we'll see you soon.